Podcast ASMR. Just kidding, it's not that type of channel. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Thursday Thermal Takes, the show where we whisper you the hottest of takes in the most high school of Thursdays. We're going to be talking today about Aharen-san wa Hakarenai, or as it's known in English, Aharen is indecipherable. But before we get into that, please do be sure to like and subscribe to the video, leave a comment on what you'd like to see in the future and what you think of this take. This definitely helps out the channel a lot and helps me bring you much more content. Aharen-san is one of the newest anime that's come out recently, spring of 2022. Definitely very new. Definitely only about halfway finished as far as I'm aware. I've watched 6 of the 12 episodes so far, and it's pretty good. I would actually say that it's my favorite anime so far this season. There's kind of one thing that's actually been interesting about this show. A lot of people tend to refer to it as a rom-com, as well as slice of life. But it's interesting because it's very funny. I'm not 100% sure whether romantic comedy best suits this show, to be perfectly honest. So today I will actually be getting into why I think this is not a rom-com anime and just a general comedy, though it could have some romantic undertones. I'll also be getting into why this is a very good anime, and also be getting into part of what I'm going to be doing on this channel. Since we're going to be talking about a lot of good anime and a lot of recent anime and a lot of ongoing anime on this channel, I'm going to have a My Anime List account just for this channel. It's going to be at myanimelist.net/animelist/theproantagonist. I'll have that linked in the description, where I'm able to show you all the anime I've watched, what scores I give them, how much I've watched of it, just kind of general stuff, whether I've completed it or not, whether it's on hold, whether it's dropped, all that good stuff. Going to be on the mail. Also follow me at twitter.com/proantagonist2 for Twitter updates, since I can't post to the YouTube channel yet. I don't have 1,000 subs, so I can't really do it. Having mentioned My Anime List, now is probably a good time to point out that Aharen-san, the anime that I'm going to call my favorite anime of the spring 2022 season, only has about a 7.4. It's hovering around at 7.4. Score on My Anime List based on user reviews. But that is kind of crazy, because I don't usually like anime this much that aren't that well liked. This is going to be kind of a controversial opinion about how this is my favorite anime of the season. The basic premise of Aharen-san is essentially this. A girl who's in high school, can't talk very well, she whispers a lot, she doesn't really understand personal space very well, she's just kind of a loner, sitting in the back of the class, all the way in the corner. This guy named Raito, who is our other main character, ends up sitting in class right next to her on the first day of high school, and honestly is trying to make a good effort at getting to know her and talk to her, just as a classmate, but he's kind of off-put by the fact that he doesn't seem to be getting anywhere because she seems to ignore him. What he doesn't realize is she's just whispering so quietly, he can't necessarily hear. Furthermore, after Raito and Aharen clear up their misunderstanding, Raito tries to get to know her better and try to establish a regular line of normal communication with her in a way that he's able to understand what she says, she's able to get her points across to him. It all works out very much better as the show goes further and further along. Essentially, that's the premise of the anime. However, things get a little bit more tricky when we get into the topic of whether or not they have a real romantic relationship. Because, in my opinion, this is a very wholesome buddy anime. Raito and Aharen make incredibly good friends and get along very, very well. Raito and Aharen also get very, very close physically in terms of actual distance, because she needs to be able to whisper to him, and he needs to often help her see parts of the class, do certain things, just because she's kind of short and sometimes needs a little bit of help. Both Raito and Aharen are very compatible with each other just as people, especially when you consider the fact that both of them are a little bit socially awkward. Aharen-san maybe a little bit more. But both of them also have very interesting quirks and odd tendencies when interacting with people. Raito is very shy and quiet. Aharen is also very shy and quiet, but both for very different reasons. Raito, just because he kind of likes to be a loner, and Aharen just because she didn't really ever learn how to properly interact with people. This is less about anxiety as much as it is about social awkwardness. Aharen-san probably is someone with Asperger's syndrome, as it is kind of hard to identify that in women compared to men. And though Aharen is shy and quiet, she does indeed want to make friends with people, just has kind of an issue doing that. Meanwhile, we have our other main character, Raito, who definitely doesn't seem like the type of person who is completely ill-equipped to make friends. It just seems like he doesn't want to make a ton of friends. But, that being said, he is very interested in trying to make a connection with Aharen. As I previously stated before, this is basically just a buddy anime. There really isn't even a lot of romantic subtext. It's essentially just two very good friends trying to be buddies. A normal episode of this anime will kind of be a mishmash of different subplots and general plot points and general trends, everything and going on in the series all at once. You have each episode starting off with Aharen and Raito in class together. They end up either talking about or experiencing a new topic of the day. Probably about 3 times an episode this happens, and it's just kind of a continuous thing, but it's so heartwarming and so wholesome in a way that, honestly, I almost never see in anime. It is one of the most adorable anime to watch. Honestly, romance could become a plot point or some sort of aspect of the show in general, but I don't necessarily see it being necessary, at the very least. It just kind of seems like the anime that, unlike the sort of When Harry Met Sally notion that men and women can't be friends together without sexual feelings, Aharen and Raito end up sharing a friendship that doesn't really need that sort of romantic tension, romantic subtext, romantic subplot, anything like that. It's just pure. But really, as great as romance anime are, it's really nice to see an anime where 2 characters try to help each other get through life. Nearly every single forum, nearly every single website, nearly every single Wikipedia page I've ever seen with this anime or with this manga has listed it as a romantic comedy. However, it just doesn't seem to bleed romantic. Even though this anime is only halfway through the first season, I feel like I already understand the entirety of the plot of the anime, aside from maybe the actual situational plot that's going to happen towards the end of the season. It just has that general wholesome feeling. And it's very hard to describe this anime without that word, because really this anime embodies wholesome much more than just about every other anime I've ever seen. Really the only non-stereotypical part of this anime is that they haven't started developing this idea that they are eventually going to be romantically involved, because really, it's just a buddy anime. And finally, getting into anime that it's very much similar to that have come out recently, and anime that it's airing around the same time as, I'm not really sure why this one hasn't gotten higher on the lists. As I said before, this anime has an average rating of 7.4, roughly, give or take, since it fluctuates a little bit. And really, this anime is only the 6th most watched anime of the season. Granted, that is behind some big anime titles like 2nd season of Komi-san, 2nd season of Rising of the Shield Hero, 3rd season of Kaguya-sama Love is War, yet somehow is among the lowest rated of the top 15 or so anime this season. My impressions based on other people's reviews are that this anime is either too stereotypical, they've seen it before, even though I don't necessarily know that that's true. I could have been completely out of the loop for almost every other anime, but I would have figured at some point that I would have seen an anime kind of like this where it's not quite romance, but it's pretty wholesome. But honestly, I've seen tons of anime with these aspects, just not all at once. And the way that Aharen-san does everything it does is just good. It just is really good, and to me it seems very unique. I find most of the negative reviews of this anime to just not really be something that makes a ton of sense if you've really watched this anime. Of the nearly 110,000 people who have watched this anime, over 20% of them have rated it at least a 9 or a 10. And even more surprisingly, for an anime like this, almost everyone else rated it at least an 8 or a 7. A good anime honestly usually gets about 7.5-ish, which this anime comes close to. Make no mistake, this isn't to put down anime that have gotten way more views or anime that have gotten way higher scores than this one. It's just to note the vastly different view that most people have watching anime, and the vast different opinions you're going to have of anime that come out and anime that may actually be good. I'll honestly say that if I were to make a top 100 anime vault, I'd put this one in it. And I really only think that because it's just so much better than most other slice of life, maybe rom-com-y types of things, even though My Anime List is actually a website that lists it as just comedy. And also because anime just don't usually hit me this hard in the emotional feels. As I said before though, we'll be reviewing a lot of new anime that come out in the coming months. We're going to put them on My Anime List. We're going to be doing basic reviews, some really hot takes, some other types of stuff. Go check it out. And go check out Aharen-san. I do believe you won't be regretting it. But anyway, if there's any topics you'd like to see me do a thermal take on, definitely post in the comments below. I do really appreciate comments giving me a little bit of direction as to what I'd like to do or what I really can do, because honestly, it took me a while to come up with this video as a topic just because there's so many anime, there's so many things that I think about anime, and it's kind of hard to just pluck one. But I figured giving my favorite new anime a try would definitely be a success. But if you'd like to hear my rantings and ramblings, definitely subscribe to the channel, leave a like as I said earlier. It definitely helps the algorithms. Leave a dislike even if you don't like it, because it probably helps with interacting with this video and getting the algorithm better. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next Thursday.